Power to the truth. This is Margo. This is Sunday, May 19th, 2019, 8:05 p.m. Pacific Time, United States of America. So we have Nostradoomus' methane report in from today. He left it as a comment under my video from last night. We're going to go over that. We're also going to look at methane and sulfur dioxide on CAMS. This is Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Services. And we're going to look at earthquakes tonight. So I'd like to just start with CAMS here. And if you saw Nostradoomus' comment, methane has gone down this last week. And so it's still in the season of going down generally, but we did have a lot of cooler weather this week. So here's where methane left off. This is the most recent data that CAMS has. It's from Friday the 17th. I have the Arctic view pulled up in surface level, and we can see this is the latest. And if you want more detailed methane reports, I'm posting them on my Subscribe page for my members. So for $5 a month you can support my work over there, and the links are in the description box below. And love to have you over there. I've got a small group over there right now, but it's a new platform that I'm using as well. I'm also posting other things. I'll do a lot of public posts and private posts. I'm doing a lot of spiritual stuff over there. So it's kind of an inner circle type thing. So what we have here, this is where methane left off on Thursday. We're seeing building and releasing continuously here in the Kara Sea to the east of Novaya Zemlya, and then in the Barents Sea to the west of the north end of Novaya Zemlya. Also in this area in Siberia, it keeps building and releasing. Also in the Norwegian area. Also from the UK, and then it's releasing in the Atlantic Ocean and moving up in a wave up to Iceland and then across. Also you're going to see waves coming up from China and waves coming up from the US, and as things start to heat up, we'll start seeing a repeat of these waves just moving across coming up from the surface. So the data is from Friday, and then the forecast period goes through Tuesday. We're seeing release also in Alaska, where those earthquakes are. We're seeing good size releases there. Also up here in Canada, there's also, when we look at sulfur dioxide, there was a large release up in the same place right up here in Canada. I haven't seen any earthquakes up there recently, but we can see that pockets around in Canada are starting to release high levels of methane as well. Of course, they have a lot of melting permafrost. We're seeing higher readings of the green. The lighter green is higher readings of the methane. So remember that they redid this color code in December of last year, and when they did that, what used to be like this yellow and orangey color is now green. So this would have all been yellow and orange up here, that's now green. We're seeing a release off of Iceland. Now I'm going to go to the North Pole view and we'll get a pretty good view of the whole northern hemisphere. So we'll let this load. So here's North America. Here we can see all the way down to the top part of South America. Here's Russia. Here's China down here. Here's northern India. Here's Saudi Arabia. We can see the northern Africa right down here. This is Europe. It's releasing high levels. We can see China is still pretty high with methane. But we can see methane levels have gone way down in the United States because it's cooler, and when it is unseasonably cooler, you'll see less methane coming up because methane is more methane is produced when it's hotter. But we can see these waves of green moving out of the ocean. Here's the Pacific, and here it is moving across the Atlantic. This is surface level, remember. Now let's go to global view. And here's what it looks like around the world. And I did a separate video with an update on Oroville for tonight. So if people are wanting information on that, make sure and check that out. I've already uploaded it to YouTube. But I will be updating every day on Oroville as things progress there with the lake levels and what's happening. I'm thinking it's a dire situation, but kind of consumed with it. Let's look at 500 HPA now. That's about halfway up in the atmosphere. It's about 18,000 feet. So we can see a lot of areas where it's not as dark, it's not as red, so, but it's still pretty covered up. So we're going to come back. Well, while I'm here, I would like to just go ahead and cover sulfur dioxide. Just get cams done. Look at that. That's the Arctic view of 500 HPA. So now we're going to look at sulfur dioxide. That was from Friday. We're seeing some releases, but not big red things until yesterday. we had another large release in the Arctic area. It actually originated down here. Now this is total column. It originated over here near Norilsk, Russia, and it shot up in the atmosphere with a great force, and then today we saw more releasing today. And also we're seeing a release up here in Canada, pretty good sized. So I expect to be seeing some earthquakes happening up there. And that's in the same region where we saw a pocket of methane releasing. Now, just to get an idea, of how large this release is, just to put it in perspective, here it is from the Arctic, and as it moves over the Arctic and goes up in the atmosphere, it releases a lot of particulates, and then it'll turn into different things like sulfuric acid. And so when it rains and snows, the rain and the snow will have a lot of acid come down on it, so whatever ice is up there will get attacked from that. Here is that release in Canada. Here's Alaska, here's Hawaii, here's Popocatépetl, here's down here in Papua New Guinea. We've been seeing those large earthquakes, so we've been seeing some releases down there, but this is by far, this dwarfs all of the other releases. So it's huge, whatever it is going on, it's huge down there. So I'm going to leave that as a backdrop if we want it for later. Now, let's get into Nostradoomus's report. This is Nostradoomus, aka Dave from the UK. He's a friend of ours. And back in March, the first part of March, he started tracking and reporting on the methane readings from the NOAA satellites. There are two satellites, METOP-1 and METOP-2, that go around the Earth. They orbit the planet and take readings. They take a morning reading and a PM reading. And so he's been tracking the data at these levels of the atmosphere, 4 levels of the atmosphere, since March the 9th. And presenting a weekly methane report. So I put it in a spreadsheet, and now I've got charts and stuff, so we'll just go over his report and then we'll look at the spreadsheets. And then Nostradoomus says, "Hello Margo and everyone. Here is my weekly methane report showing the concentrations in parts per billion measured by the 2 METOP satellites, published by NOAA, dated May 18th, 2019. And it's this is millibars, which is the same as HPA, hectopascal reading. 931, 706, 477, and 300. And here are all the readings. And here's the mean change since last week. For 931, for both satellites, it went down 3.25. For 706 millibars, it went down 1.25. For 477 millibars, it went down 0.75, and for 300 millibars, it went down 0.25. So it went down overall. Here's his analysis. As you can see, the atmospheric methane concentration has declined over the previous 7 days, the highest reduction being near ground level, which indicates lower natural emissions. That's what we saw from the colder weather. This is most likely due to unusually cool conditions in the areas where methane is usually released. Once again, there was a large difference between the two satellite readings. METOP1 showed an average drop of just 0.25 parts per billion on last week. However, METOP2 data presents a decrease of 2.5 parts per billion on its data for the same period. Overall, the average drop in concentration was 1.375 parts per billion at 1836.6. I'm not sure. Oh. Okay. The 3-week moving average showed a large drop of 1.1 parts per billion, taking us to a new low, 1837.2, since I started taking measurements. Take care, Dave. Thank you, Dave, for doing this research now and reporting on this consistently. Now, I had a conversation with him earlier today because he's presenting like two different numbers here, and this is the actual mean for overall for this week, and this is some kind of rolling average that he's doing. So I don't understand the rolling average. He thinks it smooths out the readings so they don't look so all over the place. But I'm more inclined to just go with the overall mean number, and we'll just go from there. So what I did was, in my spreadsheet, I took his numbers, which are just taken from the NOAA website, and here's the spreadsheet that we've been adding to every week. Here is a helper reminder thing down here that 931 millibars equals 1,000 feet, or within 1,000 feet of the surface, so that's considered ground level, are 304 meters up. 706 millibars is about 10,000 feet up, or 3,048 meters up. 477 millibars is about 20,000 feet high, or 6,096 meters. And 300 millibars is about 30,000 feet high, or 9,144 meters. So here's all the data. Here's from METOP1 from this week, METOP2, METOP1 AM, METOP1 PM, METOP2 AM, METOP2 PM. And one thing I've added is the averages. I've put in the calculation to average the mean so that we can see the mean on each satellite, and then totaled it at the bottom. So the mean for this week was 1862. Last week it was 1862.75, and so it went down 0.75 this week. And that's for 477 millibars, sorry. So I'm kind of tracking that separately. But the average, overall mean averages are right down here for this week. And I had it average up instead of having a bunch of decimal points. 1837 for this week was the overall mean average, or overall mean equals average for all the readings. Last week it was 1838, so it was down 1 parts per billion. So here's my my spreadsheet and chart for 477 millibars, and we've been taking the readings. We started on March the 1st, or Dave did, for these. For the others, he started on March the 9th. So I kind of cleaned this up, and it's just once a week reading now. And so here it is on the chart, and we can see that on March the 1st it started at 1857.25, and then it's gone up, and then it came down and up and down. And so today, or this week, it was 1862 right here. So it's still up. It's still higher than where we started on the 477 millibars. It's still up 4.75 parts per billion since we started. And then here's the overall mean. So the numbers are different. I realized that what he was talking about, the numbers he was giving me before, was not overall mean, but was his rolling average or something like that. So these numbers are different than last time. So these are all overall mean that I took from my spreadsheet with the calculations. And so the overall mean starting on March the 9th was 1838. Then on the 16th it was 1837. We can see it went down. Then on the 23rd it was 1840. On the 30th it was 1840. And these are, I have them rounded off. And on April the 6th it was 1841. That's been the highest reading. On April 13th it dropped to 1838. On April the 20th it dropped to 1837. On the 27th it hopped back up to 1840. On the 4th it dropped back to 1837. On the 11th it hopped back up to 1838. And then on the 18th it dropped back down to 1837. So we're still at the lowest point so far from where we started. So, you know, is it going to keep going down until around July? I mean, typically that's kind of what it does. But, you know, we're kind of off the chart with all this stuff. So there's all of that. So methane is down this week. Overall, that's the overall thing. Now let's move on to our earthquake report. We have USGS pulled up here for all magnitudes, and we're seeing 186 earthquakes worldwide in the last 24 hours. Of those, 38 are 2.5 magnitude or higher. So let's see what's about to come off the map. Here's a 3.0 at Talkeetna, Alaska. That came in last night at 9 o'clock. So it's 8:30 now, so I have time to cover whatever I want first. So I'd like to start with this earthquake at England today. We don't normally see them here, but it was off the coast of southern England, just off the coast. It was a 3.0 near Swanage, United Kingdom. This came in at 2:51 this morning. Now that time, all these times I'm going to be telling you are Pacific time, because that's my time zone. So 3.0 is not big enough to do any damage, especially with it being in the ocean, but it's showing movement in places that don't get a lot of movement. So let's just follow this around. And next we have a 4.2 near Khazarun, Iran. This came in last night at 9:19 p.m. And then we have a 4.4 in Afghanistan at Al-Qadari Ye Quran wa Mujan, Afghanistan. This happened at 5:30 this afternoon, 114 kilometers deep. Coming on around, we've got two here in Indonesia, a 5.1 near Bogor at 11:16 last night, and a 4.4 near Poninggoda, Indonesia at 1:47 this morning. Then we've got a 4.4 near Nabire, Indonesia at 3:23 this morning. Next we've got two right here, 4.7 and a 5.0 near Panguna, Papua New Guinea. This one happened at 6:15 tonight, and the other one happened at 6:28 tonight. So that's got the little wave on it. A lot of these have had the little waves, but they didn't have the tsunami warnings. Saying that there's no threat. Pacific-wide tsunami is not expected and no tsunami threat to Hawaii. Now this is for a different earthquake, a 6.7 that happened earlier. So that's how you read those. Then we've got 3 here, a 5.9, a 6.2, and a 4.9, all at New Caledonia. They all came in together there. Here's a 4.7 near Nidoy Island, Fiji. Now it is a full moon, and so we have more activity on full moons and new moons. Next we've got one in the Japan area, 4.5 near Tsukumo, Japan at 7:50 this morning. Up here off the coast of Kamchatka, Russia was a 4.9 at 8:47 this morning. Then down here in the South Atlantic we've got a 5.1 right on this Antarctic plate right on the red line. 5.1 Bristol Island, South Sandwich Islands. This one came in at 4:48 this morning. Next in South America, we've got 3 clustered up here of 4.5, 4.6, and 4.2. These are all kind of in the same place near San Antonio de los Cobras. They're pretty deep. This first one is almost 200 kilometers deep, so the deeper ones will cause movement around the tectonic plates. Here's a 4.6 off the coast of Central America, just northwest of Ecuador. This one came in at 9:35 this morning. Here's a 4.3 near Mapastepec, Mexico at 10:57 this morning. And I think that's all of the international quakes. I think I got them all. Now let's move on over to all magnitudes for Hawaii. We've got 6 here today. We've got a 1.9, 1.9, 1.8, 2.5, 2.8, and 2.1. So that's still showing movement over in Hawaii. Now in the Caribbean, we've got 6 here today. There's a 3.0, 1.9, 2.7, 2.3, 2.8, and 2.0. So those are showing movement there. Now let's move on up to Alaska. For all magnitudes, we've got 70 on the map today. Now Alaska normally has between 50 and 100 every day. It's a very highly active region. Of those, we have 8 that are 2.5 magnitude or higher. So that's a higher number of higher magnitude earthquakes. Here's a 3.0 at Talkeetna, 2.5 Larsen Bay, 2.6 Cape Yakataga, 4.1 Anchorage. And it's been a while since they've had one that big. 2.6 Nikolsky, 2.6 Kodiak, 2.7 Chignik Lake, and a 3.8 Kodiak. So let's look at all magnitudes up here now. Now we're coming on up into this Cook Inlet. Looks like there's a little bit fewer number coming in. Now here's that big one in Anchorage, 4.1. That's good size. And then we're seeing the little clusters around. And here's this cluster up here. This is at Talkeetna. And so there's that 3.0 Talkeetna. So we're seeing them move around and out with more clustering. Here's Kobuk. Kobuk is calming down. There's only 7 here today instead of 50 or 60. And they're moving on up through the state, and then we're seeing some up at the top here at Koktovik. So a lot of movement all the way up through the state. Now let's go into the lower 48. Nothing on the eastern side of the United States. We're going to start with this 3.8 near Trinidad, Colorado. It's right on the border between Colorado and New Mexico. This happened at 3:43 this morning. Nothing in Utah. Now let's look at the Yellowstone area. We've got 4 here today, a minus 0.9 near Whitehall, 1.1 near Lakeside, 0.5 near Lima, and a 1.1 near Lincoln, Montana. So that's less. And now in the Pacific Northwest, all we're seeing is this 3.6 magnitude near Rose Lodge, Oregon. Now, remember we saw all these tremors on the earthquake map? Remember we saw tremors happening right here. So this is our real-time tremor map for the Pacific Northwest. In the last 3 hours, they've only had 5 tremors. In the last 12 hours, they've had 1.9 hours of tremors. So that's gone way down. In the last 24 hours, there were 6.5 hours of tremors. Now look where this was. So that's in between Salem and Eugene, over to the west. Here's Salem, and Eugene is down here. So the earthquake happened not too far from where all these tremors are taking place. Here's Salem. So those tremors were going down here. Right down here. And then we had this earthquake, a 3.6 at 9:23 this morning, 42 kilometers deep. That's a good size earthquake. And the blasters are not even at work today. The earthquake makers are at home. Then in Northern California, there's a 1.9 near Big Bend. Coming on into Reno area. It's a 0.4 near Verdi. Actually, this is in the Mount Rose hiking area. Now coming on down in Nevada, we've got this clustering down here in Hawthorne. We've got 8 in this Hawthorne region. They're small. Coming on down into southern Nevada, we've got 1 at Alamo today, a 1.5. And we've been seeing a whole bunch there the last week. So that's calmed down. Here's Mammoth, 1.4 at Bishop. That's the only thing in the Mammoth Lakes area today, so that's a lot less. Then Coso Junction area, we've got 6 here today. 1.9 is the largest one, it looks like. So that's less. Fewer number there. What's this? Here's a 2.8 at Tehachapi. That's getting up there. 1.6 Maricopa. So in Southern California, we have 21 on the map here today. So that number has gone way down for today. So you can definitely see a difference when there's not all that blasting going on. Let's see what's 2.5 magnitude or higher down here. There's the Tehachapi one. So we'll cover those others when we get there. Now we'll come on up. Here's a 1.6 Maricopa. Here's a 3.3 at Cantua Creek. And look at all these right here. Now this red line is the San Andreas fault line that we like to follow. Here's a 1.5 pinnacles, 1.9 pinnacles, 2.0 Tres Pinos, 1.3 Hollister, 1.3 Tres Pinos. Coming on up. Here's the geysers. We've got 32 here today. That's kind of an average number between 20 and 30. The highest one is a 2.5 there at the geysers. Usually these are pretty small, ones and under. Here's that 2.5. The rest are ones and under. So I think that's it. What's coming up here just now? 2.0 Prudhoe Bay. That's brand new. That's up here in Alaska. Here's a 2.1 Volcano Hawaii. Here's a 1.1 at the geysers. So I'd like to share a Bible verse with you now. And I do believe we are in the end times, and we need to focus on getting ready to leave, getting our spiritual houses in order. And so we need to bring our focus back to spiritual things, even with everything going on around us. So I'd like to share from Luke chapter 9. And this is Jesus talking to everyone. He says, "If any man will come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever will lose his life for my sake, the same shall save it. For what is a man advantaged if he gain the whole world and lose himself, or be cast away? For whosoever shall be ashamed of me and my words, of him shall the Son of God, Son of Man, be ashamed, when he shall come in his own glory, and in his Father's, and of the holy angels. But I tell you of a truth, there be some standing here, which shall not taste of death, till they see the kingdom of God." So he's talking about that when you lose your life to this world, when you turn your back on this world, then you can start gaining the riches of the heavenly world. But we have to realize that everything here is fleeting, and we have to be ready to give it up. I like this one too. "Whosoever shall receive this child in my name receiveth me, and whosoever shall receive me receiveth him that sent me. For he that is least among you all, the same shall be great. You know not what manner of spirit ye are of, for the Son of Man is not come to destroy men's lives, but to save them. That's what people don't realize. So, I will go ahead and sign off for now. I hope everyone has had a good weekend and is getting ready and have a good week, and praying for everyone's protection. So until next time, God bless, go in peace, and good night.